morning, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for coming today to the 2023 IDEA Summer Design Program final presentation. My name is Abby Cooks, and I'm the program coordinator for the IDEA program. I'm going to give you a brief overview of today's schedule of events, and then I'll turn it over to Veronica, our director. So we're going to do some welcoming remarks at the beginning, and Veronica is going to give a little bit of an overview of the summer design program. And then starting at 10:20, we'll do the project presentations, have closing remarks, and then there'll be a lunch reception to follow at 11:40 down in the hatchery. But first, we'd like to thank all of our partners that helped make the summer program possible. The Rutgers University Libraries specifically for allowing us to use this space, and as well as being a partner in our collaboration with the hatchery. And to sort of start off, I'll introduce Veronica Armour, the director of IDEA.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm really excited to have the students present to you today. They worked really hard these past 5 weeks. For those of you that are new to IDEA or haven't been around what we've done, I'm going to give you a brief overview of that. But before, I'd like to introduce to you 2 graduate students that have been working with us this summer. We have Nicole Mendoza and Zineb Najib working with us. They are both PhD students at Rutgers. I'm going to just read a brief bio of each of them. Nicole is a PhD student in communication. She obtained her BA degree in communication from the University of California, Santa Barbara. She's interested in community engaged research and interpersonal communication and patient-provider relationships with providers that deem themselves as anti-racist or anti-oppressive. Zineb is a PhD student at the Department of Anthropology at Rutgers University. She was a teaching fellow at the Lahore University of Management and Sciences after completing her Master of Science in Gender Development from the London School of Economics and Political Science. She has also been awarded a Master's in Gender Studies from Central European University in Budapest, Hungary. Her research interests are migration and displacement, digital and social activism, and gender and political history with a regional focus on South Asia. They both served as project leads for several of our projects this summer and also were consultants and mentored the other projects as well in terms of the different community engaged design methods that were used this summer. And to give you an idea of IDEA, if you haven't known it, those of you that are familiar, I do apologize for repetition, but just want to make sure people are familiar. IDEA is an undergraduate program geared at first and second year students. We look to integrate design methods and entrepreneurial thinking into the student experience. We offer opportunities to take part in community-based design practices, different design challenges and design labs, and contribute to interdisciplinary projects based on solving complex societal challenges. Our goals are to help students discover what they want to do and what problems they want to solve. Some of them come in knowing what their major is, some of them don't. It's a new for them to test against to confirm what their interests are. We introduce design thinking and problem solving. And we just also, again, with first and second year students, look to build community around their participation in their college journey. So we talk a lot about design with IDEA, and I want to kind of go into how IDEA uses design. Many of you may be familiar with design thinking. It's a popular way of doing things in organizations in the corporate sector. It is a way of thinking about solving problems and designing for users. So you look to see what is going on, how people are acting and moving in a space, and then coming up with a solution for the users to use. You may or may not consult with them on the solution you've presented to them and have it. There are times that this can be appropriate to use and there are benefits too, but there are also drawbacks because it doesn't necessarily always include the voice of the community. So we also look to include community-based research practices and community-engaged design practices so that you're designing with the user, meaning that students aren't just coming up with a solution and presenting it to the community that they hope to impact, but along the way are including that community's voice through interviewing, through shadowing, through observation, as well as conversations with the community organization that they're working with to make sure that whatever that they're presenting is what that community member is looking for and hoping to have happen. Overview of our summer design program. It is a whirlwind 5-week excursion. Students that we look to practice more designing with users, and we look for projects that have a scope that's broad enough to provide opportunity for students to work with the organization throughout the program. It's also intended to be broad enough that, again, in the 5 weeks, if they run into an obstacle that cannot be overcome, that they have an ability to pivot in another direction. And you will hear about some of those pivots this summer when they run into an obstacle. For our presentations today, what you will see the students talk about are the participants that they worked with, the accomplishments that they've achieved over the 5 weeks, products that they have created with this program, impact that they are having and hope to achieve, any changes or obstacles that happened along the way, and then some team highlights. It won't always happen in that order, as each team has come up with their own narrative to describe their summer with us. And so without further ado, I'll turn it back over to Abby as our MC for today.
Okay, so to begin, I'd like to call up the Marsh restoration.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. We are the Marsh Restoration team for this year's Summer Idea Program. My name is Ryan.
I'm Terry. I'm Devin.
And I'm Shreya.
And for our project, we worked in collaboration with the Jacques Cousteau team, which consists of Mike DeLuca, Andrea Habig, Caitlin Gannon, as well as Amy Prentice. And so currently the grassy marsh, which is located in Tuckerton, New Jersey, is inhabited by an invasive species of grass called Phragmites australis due to a very old and clogged culvert restricting the tidal flow between the grassy marsh and its parent marsh sheephead meadows. And so for our project, our main goals were to review different methods and strategies for marsh restoration, as well as methods for Phragmites removal. We were also supposed to identify different regulatory requirements imposed by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection for this project and review different strategies for education and outreach for this project. And so outdoor activities that we participated in were visiting the Jacques Cousteau National Extreme Research Reserve, as well as walking their grassy marsh trail. And we also toured the Marine Field Station. So now I will pass the mic to Terry to explain the research.
So some of our research was to work on looking into additional strategies to eliminate the invasive grass Phragmites australis, which has been harming the local ecosystem, affecting the birds and the fish population. Also looking into New Jersey regulations for marsh restoration. And so some of the strategies we came up with was to combine the physical removal with tidal flooding, which is basically we would cut or mow the grass during the periods of high water. Also looking into cut to drown method, which is a method where you cut the grass below the water levels and essentially drown the grass. And another strategy we came up with through our research was to revegetate the native grass species where the Phragmites die out. And so that could help establish dominance of the native grass. And that will follow along with the replacement project that Jacques Cousteau is pursuing to place the culverts and increase tidal flow. So now Shreya will talk about education and outreach.
So for the educational and outreach part, we decided to make some posters and some brochures. So we first made our outlines, and that soon became our first draft. We decided to take on some blind feedback from our peers, from from different groups, and which really helped us better our posters too. And throughout the process, which we tinkered a lot with the design and the information that we put on the posters so that we can efficiently transport the information to people who are viewing the posters. And our brochures also include more information about the grassy marsh. And if you look at the screen, you can see the three final posters we have here. And we have three different ones because they're all unique and they are made for unique reasons. And the first one is more informational and detailed. You need a basic knowledge to really look at it. And the second one is more emotionally driven, like why is what we are doing really important, and why is what they're doing at JCNERR really important. And the third one is more general, educational, something that catches sweat when passerbys are going through, they can just really see it. Now I'm gonna pass it on to Terry to explain the impact.
So some of the impacts we were hoping our project would have was to raise awareness about how important it is to restore the wetlands, and specifically with the grassy marsh. We're also hoping that the project would help with restoring balance to the marsh ecosystem through reintroducing tidal flow, and that could hopefully help with removing the Phragmites. Also hoping to increase opportunities for scientific research. Maybe after the marsh is being restored, more of the fish and the birds would return to the ecosystem, and that could provide more research opportunities. We're also hoping that this marsh restoration could contribute to records of existing effective marsh restoration strategies and help people from other research reserves or maybe other marshes going through the same issues to fix them. So now Devin will talk about some of the obstacles and missed opportunities we have.
So during our time here, our 5-week program, we were unable to visit the marsh until later in the program. And we were mainly focusing on just restoration of the marsh, and we were not really thinking about education and outreach. So we were unable to focus on that until really later in the program. We also were unable to visit because we visited it later in the program. We were unable to visit JCNERR more than once. We also had a plan to visit JCNERR with IDEA as a sort of education and outreach as well as a team bonding, but we were unable to do so.
So some of the team highlights. So something I really enjoyed about working on this team was we got to do a lot of team bonding during our downtime, and we used the Pomodoro method. And so basically we would work for a long period and then take shorter breaks. And during those shorter breaks, we would maybe play some games, and we also folded some of the origami, and we would hang that around the workplace, make it more fun. And so that's something I really enjoyed.
So as a team, we at least went out to play sports like ping pong, badminton, volleyball, at least twice a week, so that we can really get that communication going on in the workplace. And it's just easier for us to work together.
I enjoyed seeing the nature when we visited the marsh. There were a bunch of turtles in the road all over. And we were able to see a vast variety of different species.
So continuing kind of off of what Shreya said, I really enjoyed being able to go out to lunch with my team members, because I think that allowed us to be able to become more comfortable with each other and communicate more effectively. And I think in the long run, that helped us sort of establish comfort, and it helped us with our project in the long run. So that concludes our presentation. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you so much. I'd also like to mention that if you have any questions or comments for any of the team, you can hold them until the lunch reception after. They also have some displays in the hatchery of some posters and products that they made. And so if you want to see them closer up, you'll have an opportunity. I'd like to call up the AgTech.
Hi, we're the AgTech team and we work at Unidas. My name is Sahil Jena. I'm a rising junior and I'm studying computer science, data science, and plant science.
Hi, my name is Soham. I'm a rising sophomore. I'm studying computer science and economics.
Hi, my name is Sydney. I'm hoping to study IT and I'm a theater minor.
Hi, my name is Sumait Sinha, and I'm currently studying computer science at Rutgers.
The participant for our project was the Rutgers Hydroponic Farm. Our supervisor was Dr. Alon Rabinovich, and we primarily worked at Rutgers Gardens. Just for some background on what AgTech actually is, it's the integration of agriculture and technology. And for a long time, it's been such that agriculture and technology have been seen as two separate things. But with machine learning, with development of automation, and development of just technology that allows farmers' lives to become easier and more efficient, AgTech is an industry that is rapidly growing and going to continue to grow for a long time.
Here are the major accomplishments throughout our project. Our major goal going into this was to automate the technology inside of the greenhouse that we visited at Rutgers Garden. So that would include things like irrigation, moisture, temperature, and the ventilation within the greenhouse. And the major activities we did to achieve this was planting the samples, visiting the farms, and the technology side of it is researching the sensors and setting up the Raspberry Pis for the automation. The opportunities that we had for training and professional development mostly involved working with the professionals and the participants in this project, which would be Dr. Alon and his colleague, who are professional researchers in the AgTech field. And the key outcomes we had was that we got to meet these professionals and familiar ourselves within the AgTech industry and understand how Rutgers Gardens work and how these processes can be implemented in an experiment.
For our product, we were able to create a design of like a rough blueprint for a growth chamber. This is as a result of our projects pivoting because of weather conditions and just a little bit of hecticness. We were able to go to the Rutgers Gardens and set up 64 soil experiments. The original goal of our project was to track methane of various soil plots. The soil plots included different soil types, different fertilizers, and just different moisture conditions. Our goal was to see which would be the most that would produce some lead methane, and that information passed on to the farmers to label as the more green or just as promotional item.
So here's our impact. We were able to explore the positive impact of data science and computer science in the field of agriculture. And it was like with this, we were able to initiate discussions on the kind of work for the future. We learned how Rutgers runs their greenhouses and uses their farms to help researchers to further their work. In terms of society, well, it increases productivity and yield, which benefits all the farmers and everybody else as well. And for our stakeholder, we were able to generate more profit, make the operations more streamlined and efficient. And yeah.
So as Sahil was talking about earlier, with our original goal, we were looking at collecting data for methane, from the methane sensors, and charting that out and looking at how the different fertilizers would produce different methane outtakes. But our end goal, we had to pivot at some point, and our end goal turned more of creating a growth chamber to really test the sensors that we're going to be using in the field. Some of the reasons for our pivot came with just the weather, that the weather discrepancies such as the smoke, such as the storming, so we weren't able to go visit the farm as much as we'd like. We had many stuff like the farm excursions planned, but we just had to be canceled due to these weather issues. We also the sensors that we saw were already hooked up in the lab that we were visiting, and we were unable to really work with them in our systems or under our programs that we were working with, such as Mycodo. But we also had some issues with our schedule, since it is only 5 weeks and our original goal was very broad and a larger goal than we had predicted in the beginning. So for my team pilot, I'm really appreciative that I was able to work and learn Python and be able to learn about AgTech and how it affects us. I know for me, I mostly work in parks management, so being in the hatchery and being in more of a typical office environment, and also seeing how high-level research was done in the lab when we visit the greenhouses was a great experience.
Talking to these professionals, I understood the process of research at Rutgers and also research in New Jersey in general, working with the government gaining grants and how that can be important to do any impactful research.
So this has been an eye-opening experience for me. I have learned a lot about how computer science can be used to help billions of people, including farmers. I realized there's a big difference between the theory and the research, like the actual, and it is essential to understand the problem and figure out solutions for them.
I thought it was interesting how similar scientist struggle is to my own. I always envisioned in my head that scientists would be extremely professional and they have everything they need to get the best possible results. Honestly, it's a little bit sad that they don't. The distrust that these scientists and these researchers have between the stakeholders, in this case, which is farmers, it's understandable, but it's a little bit disappointing. It's that their output, their yield, their livelihood, it could be better, but it just isn't. And learning that gap, seeing it firsthand, and learning about ways that we can actually improve that was really important to me, and I hope that continues from that.
I'd now like to call up the Justice Health team.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miriam Ghana, and we are Justice Health.
My name is Brianna Titus.
My name is Nish Suparia.
My name is Tiffany Yoon.
My name is Hassan Malik.
So for participants, throughout our project, we met with a handful of different individuals. Our main community partner was the UCHC, University Correctional Healthcare. And within that, we met with Dr. Brewer, who is a statewide medical director, as well as Paulo and Victoria, who are nurse practitioners. We also met with the UPHC, specifically Dr. Micah Hillis, who is a doctor of social work. And with the UCHC and UPHC, we use them as mentors in terms of developing our idea and finding information in terms of social inequity in correctional healthcare. Sorry. We also met with former Justice Health members, Bonsi Shah, who is the creator of Justice Health, and we used her as a mentor in terms of figuring out whether our potential idea would work, as well as the process of delivering our idea. Next, Miriam will discuss the product, which we use the participants to develop a social justice program in terms of, sorry.
So due to our problem statement being very broad, we had to combine social justice as well as the correctional system. So we decided to create a social justice correctional provider training program. So in this program, we had 2 physical products out of it. And the program consisted of 3 different stages. It had the webinar, it had a simulation, which was me, and then finally also had an apprenticeship program. So in regard to the first physical product, this was the case study script. That one comes in the simulation. And in the simulation, there were 2 stages, the role play stage and the improv stage. In regards to the role play stage, it would be between 2 patient providers who are in the training to role play between each other different cases and different studies of a good and bad example of how to properly communicate with their patient. And the case study would include both verbal and nonverbal communication skills of how to improve and properly communicate. The second product that we created was a survey. Now, in this survey, it was important to take into consideration the thoughts and concerns of the incarcerated individuals, because we learned that there were not many simulations or trainings that took into consideration what the incarcerated individuals needed. Now, the survey would be taken biannually and would be a multiple choice and open-ended questionnaire of how they felt the quality of care was in the prisons. And then now Tiffany will. So, General, I'm sorry.
So this is what we coined as our roadmap. Our project began with an obstacle, that being that we could not shadow or be on site to, really do anything. So this, was disappointing at first, and it honestly caused a lot of confusion. But we continued, and we knew that our project was going to be more research-based. So we, dove into research. After doing some preliminary research, we came to the conclusion that we wanted to focus on the racial component of healthcare inequities in the correctional setting. And as soon as we dove deeper into this research, we ran into a few problems. Those being that the data is complex, and when you already don't have direction, research is also a lot harder. But despite this, we continued and conducted interviews, our 3 most important interviews. The first of which scared us, and honestly made us reconsider our entire project. But not to worry, our next 2 were a lot more reassuring, and our ideas actually were supported and bolstered. And Dr. Brewer really not only supported our project, but allowed us to expand on it with the survey component. And Nicole Mendoza, our project lead and mentor, nudged us in a positive direction, even when we were considering pivoting. And we actually ended up, bringing the product we have for you today. Now I'm going to have Nish talk about the accomplishments.
All right, so our accomplishments. Obviously, at the start, we came across an issue, which was the fact that we weren't able to shadow. And so one of the major goals that we had was we were able to pivot from it and move in a different direction. We utilized multiple literature reviews for multiple days, studying them and taking notes. And through that, we were able to find a lot of new research ideas and develop a new product. And alongside this, we were able to interview many providers in the field, like Brianna and Hassan talked about, such as Dr. Arthur Brewer, Micah Hillis, and Victoria. And utilizing a complex interview guide, as well as highly developed focused questions, we were able to get our answers answered, as well as be able to advance in our product and eventually have our 3 main deliverables, which was our research proposal, the survey, and the script. And we ended up collectively writing over a 30-page paper, which we hope to actually get published in the future, as well as develop a survey. And we utilize methods such as Qualtrics, as well as other programs to write our survey, as well as develop our literature. And again, kudos to Nicole for helping us so much, especially in our direction. We really didn't know where we were going to go with this entire project, but she kept pushing us. She kept giving us new ideas and different approaches, and we were able to create this beautiful idea, as well as have multiple deliverables. I'll now hand it over to Tiffany, who's going to explain kind of the impact that our project really is.
So the impact of our project can be divided into 3 main categories: stakeholder, society, and the Rutgers community. For the stakeholders, while inmates can meet with improved quality of care with stable patient-provider dynamics, providers can comprehend the complex nature of correctional healthcare with continuous educational innovation by workshops under feedback on a timely basis. For the society, our project is primarily dealing with a long-lasting social issue in the United States, and our partnership with UCHC and UBHC leads to a direct influence in the state level. And lastly, for the Rutgers community, student level engagement is our impact, and is also one of the main takeaways we got from the interviews with the stakeholders. And because our project is directly involving undergraduates, investigating and designing improvement for correctional healthcare, this is coming up impact, and this project will also continue. So now moving on to the team highlights.
Personally, I gained a valuable experience working on this project by giving inmates a voice, which is through the survey, and give them a chance to decide their healthcare and means of how they're going to go about whether they,
Personally, I learned about a community in the healthcare system that I never had much knowledge of, and it's just important to me because I do plan on pursuing a career in the health system in the future, which helped me gain more perspective of who and the wider community of who I'm gonna work with.
For me, also as an individual, pursuing healthcare field in my future career, I had a meaningful experience balancing the interdisciplinary nature of healthcare and keeping this mindset as
So along agreeing with everything else that they said, I was able to learn more about the issues in the prison system, something that isn't really spoken about. And I was able to expand my knowledge in the healthcare field, not only in the medicinal area as well as and academic, but more in the interdisciplinary, being able to research more about in the literary sector. And I was also able to gain a lot new connections and new friends, and was able to build on my teamwork skills as well.
So I learned a lot too. I was passionate about healthcare reform, but coming into this project, I learned about a new population that I didn't know was struggling as much as I thought it did. And I also learned I should probably update my LinkedIn photo.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to our presentation.
I'd now like to turn it over to the Lazos team.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the final presentation of Lazos on Unidas. I'm Jim Marie Torres.
I'm Michael Semino.
I'm Melissa Mendoza.
And Adrian Cordova is not here, unfortunately, but he is here in spirit. And I'm Sandra Lee.
And I'm Vinny Marriott.
So here's a brief overview of the participants where we collaborated with Lazos, a nonprofit organization representing and advocating the Mexican immigrant community and strengthening the relationship between the Hispanic and broader community. So we worked with Teresa Vivar, the founder of Lazos and the executive director, who is a very passionate and hardworking woman who communicated to us that to spread the message of Lazos through different goals that she communicated. And one of them was to have a stronger digital footprint for Lazos, specifically through a website. So with the website, she would be able to do outreach not only to the community, but to the sponsors that would aid and work with Lazos. So she proposed to us to build and create a website that encapsulates the goals and message and is appealing to sponsors. So we knew that we'd be able to collaborate with everyone and make this be accomplished. But in order to do that, we also had another key person who was involved, which is Nicole Mendoza, who is one of our team leads. She had prior connections to Lazos through her Dr. Charles Centeno, who also worked with Teresa. And Nicole provided us with direct contact and communication with Teresa throughout the process of the project. So once we got started on the project, we decided to split up into two teams that corresponded with our disciplines. So Jill Marie, Sandra, and I were focused on content research and media. Michael, Beneath, and Adrian were focused on the designing part and the implementing part.
So our project was to create a website, and we implemented interface designs through the Figma software using lo-fi and hi-fi wireframes. And through them, we went through multiple design phases and started with mockups presented in a grayscale with placeholders. And then we created realistic prototypes that include a text, images, a color scheme. So it could all be implemented into WordPress. And through our design process, we really value our stakeholder Teresa's vision because we wanted the website to be colorful, be representative of the Mexican Latino community, and really show what Lazos does. And moving down to the breakdown, here are just the breakdown of the tabs, and now I'm doing a walkthrough of the website. So starting off with the homepage, here are a few statistics regarding undocumented immigrants in New Jersey and worldwide. If we scroll down a little bit, here are services that Lazos offers, and on each card, there is a small description regarding what Lazos provides within that service. Moving on to the about page, we are instantly shown with their mission statement, which kind of shows why the organization does what it does. And scrolling down a little bit more, here is a timeline starting from when Lazos was founded in 2001, and now they are working with the Mexican consulate. Scrolling down a little bit more, here is a meet the team section for our stakeholder as well as a bio for her. Moving on to the impact page, here are stories of partnerships Lazos has done, and this page really shows what Lazos has done for the community. And moving on to the event page, here are all upcoming and past events, and each event is hyperlinked to the original Facebook post of the event. And now my teammate Sandra is gonna walk you through the donate and buy tab.
So our main goal for the website was to find sponsors for the organization as it is a nonprofit. Therefore, we made a donate page. It's going to be linked in to the GoFundMe for Latin American Unidas. And something that Teresa requested of us is she's planning on finding local Hispanic and Mexican artisans to sell their authentic jewelry. And all the props are gonna go directly to them and not only help the vendor, but help the community as well. So we do not have the products yet, but we do have a coming soon marketplace, which as you can see here, once she gets her products, she can just put it in.
Okay, next up, we have our conflicts during our process. And one of the main one was a lack of communication with our stakeholder. Our stakeholder was going under surgery while we were doing this project. So we had to make a lot of decisions on the fly and had to design for ourselves. So one of the things was curating content. Lazos is a big organization that has connections for like 20 years. So there's a lot of content scattered across the internet. We need to hone in and find specific things they needed on the website to communicate their message. Another thing we needed to learn was technical skills. We had to design through the Figma software or implement through the WordPress. And some of us did not know how to do that, so we had to learn how to do that. And also, lastly, we had the work was already been done. Lazos already had an existing web page before this. However, it lacked a lot of the things that Teresa needed. So we needed to figure out what to do to improve it and how to build on what was already made.
So going into our accomplishments, our main goal was to create a website including information about Las Americas Unidas. And our specific objectives was to create a storefront for her handmade jewelry as said before, and which allows the community to donate to the organization. And our major activities and process of creating this website was first, we collected data, secondary, primary, all over the website. This included going through their Instagram, their Facebook, and all these random websites that had mentioned Las Americas Unidas. And then we had an interview with Teresa early in the month, and after that, we analyzed all the data we had and finally started prototyping and designing on Figma, and then finally implemented the design onto the actual platform, which is called WordPress. And our key outcome was, as you can see, a working website that presents Las Americas Unidas in a concise and professional way. And an additional accomplishments that we had was we learned a lot of technical skills. We learned how to design a website itself. We learned WordPress, we learned Divi Builder. And we also learned how to optimize our individual skill sets. As we all have different interdisciplinary backgrounds, we were able to connect together and build a community.
Last but not least, we have our impact. So as Rutgers undergrads, we are able to build upon our skills that we've learned in the classroom and apply them in the real world, such as working with community leaders and organizations as we did with our stakeholder Teresa. So through that, we were able to push our organization forward through her digital footprint, as well as creating a marketplace that creates a global outreach within the Mexican community, as well as merging physical presence with an online presence. So my highlight and key takeaway from this project was breaking barriers with great determination, required wisdom, anything is possible.
So for my team highlight, through my journey of website design, I feel like it's important that us teammates, we design together rather than designing separately, because when you guys come together, it's hard to kind of incorporate everyone's ideas.
So mine was, as a Mexican American myself, it brought me joy to see our collaboration through web design and culture for the community.
And Adrian Cordova said, This experience has taught me a whole lot about designing with others, but designing for others as well. And I said this whole externship was new experience and helped me gain insight into how a work environment is like.
Okay, I said that learning and exploring web development really helped me refocus my career goals and helped me discover what I want to do in the future. And thank you for listening to our presentation.
I'd now like to turn it over to the EcoComplex.
It's okay. The way your voice went out.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. We are the EcoComplex food waste team, and this is our final presentation.
I'm Nyla. I'm majoring in IT and minoring in cognitive science.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a double major in environmental science and agriculture and food systems with a minor in culinary nutrition.
Hi, I'm Jessica, and I'm a double major in finance and business analytics information technology.
Hi, I'm Perry, and I'm majoring in business administration with a minor in psychology.
I'm Alicia, I'm majoring in computer science, minoring in digital communication information.
Hi, everybody. I'm a computer science major. I'm Angel, and I'm minoring in music technology. So for our project overview, our sponsor, EcoComplex, is an organization that focuses on addressing and raising awareness for the use of clean energy, environmental and sustainable agricultural issues, and acts as a center of outreach and education regarding these issues. So as our sponsor, our goals align with these EcoComplex values. And we primarily wanted to focus on bringing awareness to the Rutgers community on their handling of food waste and their sustainable practices. We created our group, Are You Against Food Waste, in order to make this information more accessible. As we delved into our research, we realized that there is a lot of information out there on how food waste is detrimental to the climate, but there isn't a lot of information specifically on Rutgers sustainable practices. So we wanted to focus on providing a designated space for education on Rutgers sustainable efforts, so that way the Rutgers community at large will be more aware of it. So now I'm going to pass the mic to Alicia, who's going to talk about our participants.
So throughout this project, we talked to two main people. First one being Dr. Serpelgran, and she is the director of EcoComplex. And with her, we had basically weekly meetings where we talked about our project plan, the steps for moving forward. And we also discussed, where she gave us guidance and feedback on our product. We also talked to Joe Shred, who is the director of Rutgers, and he was able to provide us with a lot of valuable information about Rutgers policies and protocols when it comes to Rutgers design. And we also like to acknowledge Clint River, who we met when we did a site visit to compost there. And he is a manager of Rutgers Research Farms, so he was able to give us a lot of information about how the composter works. And now Perry will talk about our.
So through our participants, it was discussed that students had a lot of misconceptions about Rutgers dining halls and how Rutgers manages their food waste, not knowing that their own individual actions can contribute to food waste as well. So we concluded that our product should be informative media, and so we have an Instagram page called Are You Against Food Waste, as you know, with a rising number of followers and posts that talk about how to reduce food waste at home, or the food hierarchy and what Rutgers does as well. So on the middle, you can see we have a post about Rutgers composting, and on the side, we have about the food hierarchy. But if you want to see more of our posts, you can always scan the QR code and follow us on Instagram. So we've also created 13 different posters, and they're all displayed at the hatchery. And we went through a poster experiment where we took 6 posters we wanted to test, and then we covered it up, and we asked our peers feedback on if the poster was spreading awareness or was eye-opening. And then we took the feedback, and here are some of our final results.
Now to Jessica and Emily. Talk about them.
So starting off with EcoComplex, we were able to take a project that was primarily dominated by staff and faculty and connected to students here at Rutgers. We did this by creating a medium, which was our social media page, posters, where any student that wanted to access information about food waste or act upon their own consciousness would be able to do so.
And over the last couple of weeks, we did a small experiment within our program to test the effectiveness of our posters. We did this with the students in our program, and we gained some insights from this, but due to the constraints that Nyla will talk about shortly, there's still more work to do. So with Dr. Garan and with Dr. Ethan Schulman, we plan to do future experiments in the dining halls during the fall semester. As a team, we've also learned to use many qualitative research methods, including interviews, literature reviews, and comparative analysis that we will continue to use throughout our educational and professional careers. And through this research, we were able to get a lot of knowledge about the Rutgers processes that would have gone unnoticed by us before this process or before this project. And we, as you may have seen through our introductions, we are a team comprised of many different majors and backgrounds, but we were all able to work together to create our products. And this ability to collaborate with our peers as well as with professionals will prove to be very useful to us in the future.
All right, so in terms of our obstacles, walking into the project, not many of us knew a lot about the topic, so there was a lot of research to be done. When we were doing our research, we found that there was lack of transparency with what Rutgers is doing to handle food waste. A lot of our information came from Dr. Garan, who was very informative and communicated with us throughout the whole process, so thank you so much. And also Mr. Joe Charette. In terms of our medium, we actually originally wanted to make videos, but unfortunately with their time frame and everything, it wasn't realistic for us. So in the meanwhile, we chose to create posters and create our own social media instead. And as for our social media, we did try to collaborate with other student organizations such as AgTech and C, which stands for the Students for Environmental Awareness. But unfortunately, they were very unresponsive and had poor communication with us. We also did conduct 2 different experiments, as Emily and Perry mentioned. The first one was to grab feedback for our posters, and the second one was to test the impact of our posters on food waste. But unfortunately, there were too many external factors, and we just didn't get the data that we wanted. And for our team highlights.
Despite this program only being 5 weeks, I feel like we've gained a lot from this experience. Personally, because of how my classes work throughout the year, I'm not really used to working with students with such different majors from me. So working with people with different perspectives and different angles on this project was really refreshing to me.
This project helped me practice design thinking and explore Rutgers food waste, which expanded my own knowledge about the topic and helped me creatively innovate with my wonderful team.
I really enjoyed learning new design techniques such as literature review, comparative analysis, especially on the site visit and we next with EcoComplex. And I enjoyed creating content such as the posters and social media since it allowed me to be creative, which is something I really value.
I enjoyed being able to go through this whole design process from research to interviews to creating the final products. And I also enjoyed watching this be able to make positive.
Working on this project definitely expanded my horizons and knowledge regarding the design processes. It was also nice to know and rewarding to know, the impact that we've made on our community.
And to conclude, I really appreciate how integrative the EcoComplex project was. It was definitely eye-opening to learn about how Rutgers was able to manage food waste among such a large student and faculty population. And with that, that concludes our presentation. So thank you for taking
the time. Okay. Next, I'd like to call up our CO2 monitoring team. I will give a little bit of a heads up that we've given this team We've given this team a few extra minutes beyond the 7-minute presentation time. They are a large team, and so we want as many of them to speak as possible. So bear with them as they'll be a little longer than 7 minutes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle, and our team worked with the Ribbit Network with a project where we monitored the carbon dioxide levels in New Brunswick, and we were tasked with analyzing some data. Okay, so my team included myself.
I'm Deb. I'm Ankit.
Hi, my name is Shrimati.
I'm Nisa.
I am brother.
I'm Kaimei.
I'm Nick.
I'm Sakar.
I'm Elizabeth.
I'm Ayan. And I'm Parag.
We were also aided by many great staff from Rutgers and other universities. First up, we have Laura Palumbo and Ryan Womack from the Rutgers Library Services, who helped us a lot with finding research and data and also showing us how we could display our data. We also received help from Ian and Pascal from the Ribbit Network itself. They really guided us on how to build the sensors and how we could work on placing them. We also received help from the George Street Co-op, who was the only location that actually gave us permission to place one of our sensors here in New Brunswick, and we're really grateful to them. We also received aid from the Rutgers Atmospheric Weather Institute, who graciously gave us their data and research to let us learn how to research this data. And we also received aid from the Columbia Climate Lab, who is currently doing a project with the Rutgers Atmospheric Weather Institute, who also graciously let us use their data.
So now we'll all briefly go over some of the products that came from our project, and one of them is obviously the CO2 sensors, which we have. We made 5 of these, which 2 are active on the Ribbit sensor network, which if you go to the website, we'll show you here. To 3D print the plastic parts, we use the RU Makerspace's 3D printers, which is this. And each sensor inside, there's a GPS parameter, CO2 sensors, and ESP32 microcontroller, which is just all stuff that helps the sensor read information about CO2. Okay, so another product is the dashboard, which we were able to create several types of dashboard based on our subject interest. So this dashboard is presenting a data visualization from the sensor that we placed at my house. So from the scatter plot, you can see is data from the sensor that's both indoor and outdoor, because it was raining for the past few days. So I placed it inside my house just in case if water gets into the sensor and makes it not work. So you can see like when the humidity is low and the carbon dioxide level is high, that's because when it's indoor, it has higher carbon dioxide level. And when the humidity level is high, which is to the left side of the scatter plot, the carbon dioxide level is low. And on the top of the dashboard, you can see the drop-down menu, which could change the variables to compare different variables. So you can compare the carbon dioxide level versus time, which when you get access to the dashboard, when you change the carbon dioxide compared to the time, you see some discrepancy in the data. That's because when we place a sensor indoor, the GPS tends to disconnect over time, which will we place it outdoor again for the GPS to work. And it's only when the GPS is working, the data will report by the Ribbit Network server, and that's how we get our data. And below the drop-down menu is the slider for the time, which we could look at the data in a smaller chunk.
and to see the data more clearly. And to the right side is a screenshot of the data table. That's a CSV downloaded from the Ribbit Network. And that includes all the data we collected from the sensor. So we actually have another dashboard that Frog created, which focuses on another aspect, which this one is only a data visualization of the data from the sensor we placed. While Frog's dashboard focuses on the research question and analyzing the data from the existing data points that's already on the Ribbit Network server. And our purpose of having the dashboard is to improve our data literacy skill and also contribute to the citizen science in order to add more carbon dioxide level data for the Ribbit Network server. And now we're going to take a look at Brooks' website, which could also access our dashboard from the website.
We also created a website that shows how we made our CO2 sensors and also how to get a bulk of the Ribbit Network.
So from this project, we managed to have a few accomplishments. So as Deb mentioned earlier, we had originally started out 10 places to deploy our sensors in, but we only got one of these business called the North Street Co-op. And with the help of business, we were able to put up a sensor there as well as one in Hemming's house. So we have right now 2 active sensors which we're collecting data from, and as shown before, we have a dashboard where we displayed all that data in a way that would kind of make it more visually, you would be able to visualize the data more. So another thing was that because Ribbit is like, this is the first time Ribbit Network but collaborated with the university, we also located some pain points and like strategies to collaborate with them and figure out ways in how in the future they can have more projects like this with more either other universities or itself. And for our findings, we researched different types of CO2 sensors. There are a variety out there depending on their accuracy and how much they measure, and there's like a whole subset of data collection based on that. And obviously we did a lot of data analysis and visualization, which is presented via the website and the dashboard. And we also worked with local bureaucracy as well as Rutgers organizations to figure out what to do with the sensors.
So the impact of our project is rather interesting. We helped Ribbit Network expand their network. Currently, there was only one sensor in the entire northeast of the United States, and we added about 3. So adding about a 300% increase. These sensors are really important because there's not a lot of CO2 data for this region, or at least it's not really accessible. Something we realized while we were doing research for this project is it's really hard to get like just raw CO2 data if you want to do your own research. And we're really hoping that this being super available will help other students be able to do their own research. That's kind of the main deal with what we're doing. We want to create an educational tool on our website and on our dashboard that students and researchers can use to get CO2 data for the local area. And we're hoping that this will help further like propel initiatives to fight climate change and other environmental threats.
Yeah, so we mentioned earlier that we were only able to place 2 out of the 5 sensors, and there is a reason for that. That being that these sensors have a lot of physical restraints on them. They require a constant power source, stable Wi-Fi, and security. And we needed locations that could satisfy all of these requirements. However, we needed permission from IPOA in order to use those locations, but due to the summer holiday, we had issues communicating with them. We also experienced delays during our project, since we had to wait for our parts for our 3D printed parts from the makerspace at the Livingston campus. And once we finally received those parts, it was only then that we could plant the sensors at Hemming's house and the George Street Co-op, and then finally connect those sensors to the larger Ribbit network.
So for our team highlights, my favorite part was meeting new people and learning how to lead a dynamic team with people from different backgrounds and different strengths. And I'll read off a few. Nick said he learned how to communicate more effectively in a professional workplace setting, as well as Srimati saying that she learned about data visualization and building the sensors was a lot of fun. And here's the QR code to see our website as well as seeing our dashboard. And for our future plans, we plan to find more permanent locations for our sensors, as well as continue updating our dashboard. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Okay, now I'd like to turn it to our last team, which is Headcount.
Yeah, that's all I use.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here today. Over the 5-week summer program, we created Headcount, a better approach to volunteer management. But before we get into that, we'll introduce the team. I'm Jack Bargard. We also have a member named Kritika, who unfortunately cannot be here today. I'm Leonard Shukla. I'm Pradesh Srikanth, and I'm Vinay Guy. All right, now let's get into it. I want you to imagine yourself as the manager of a food bank. This might be difficult to do, so I'll help try to visualize it for you. You have 2 primary tasks. The first one being the actual volunteer work. And this is difficult. You have to carry these heavy boxes of groceries out and distribute the food to the patrons of your food bank. But it is fulfilling work, it's rewarding, and as you distribute the food, you have a palpable sense of community impact. You're doing good for your community, and as a result, you feel good too. Now, the second responsibility you have is the actual managing of your volunteers. This involves recording and reporting their hours. And this part doesn't make you feel as good. The reason being, the current volunteer management system in place has its flaws. It's reliant on paper, which is bad for the environment and creates the need for physical record keeping. It's also difficult to navigate and confusing to use and find important information on. And these combine together to make the entire process very time-consuming. If you are already thinking about what is important, getting the food out to the hungry people who are visiting your food bank, then why should you have to think about the volunteer management system? You shouldn't. And that's why we built Headcount, a system that lets you do more and think less. Here it is.
So during development, we consulted mainly with Jennifer Hinton from Unity Square, a local food bank here in the city of New Brunswick. And observing her current system, we realized that there were 3 major points of friction. Number 1 was the over-reliance on paper. If you're a volunteer coming to sign in for the first time, you need to sign in a physical paper form. And that's extremely cumbersome and horrible for the environment. Number 2 was that Jen had to keep track of all of these papers herself. And if the organization above her needed them, she had to go back to her closet, find their ID number, get it from the folder, and then give it. Extremely time consuming. And number 3, if she needed to keep her own records on a spreadsheet, she had to manually input everything herself. That's why we wanted to address all 3 things with our product. Here's a quick demo video. So the first thing is signing up as a volunteer. So this is what the volunteers see. Instead of paper, there's a simple web form. And all you do is type in your name and all your information, and then hit the submit button. That's like go. And then all of that is handled completely automatically, nothing else needed. Now, there's automatic record keeping. Say you need that form. On the admin dashboard, this is what Jen sees, just find the user, click PDF, and immediately it generates the information that you need, ready to send in print. And 3 is a spreadsheet integration. If you have a Google Sheet, all you have to do is copy the link, go back to the dashboard, paste the link, click export,
wait for the confirmation. And then bam, all of your information is right there in a snap. Developing something like this isn't a linear process. There's a lot of twists and turns. Let's talk about it.
All right, so throughout this 5-week process, we broke it down into different stages. So the first one being the idea. So Headcount was basically established by through DFA, which stands for Staff for America, in case you guys don't know about this. And our initial purpose was to basically ensure like proper communication between volunteers and food banks. And so we moved on to brainstorming that idea where we basically laid out a blueprint of what our app wanted to look like for Big Month. And we also interpreted using Kanban boards with initial ideas. And then from there on, we moved into our preliminary research where we basically scheduled Zoom meetings with our stakeholders. And we even reached out to one of the stakeholders called MEVO, which is an environmental nonprofit organization located in Mawa. And we basically looked into their sample website and how they use their volunteer system. And from there on, we went on to our primary research where we basically went to their stakeholders and we all looked into it to see what they're doing. So after we met with our stakeholders, we realized one big difference. When we met with the 3 stakeholders, George Street Co-op, MEVO, and Hydronic Farm, we noticed that like they were satisfied with their volunteer system. In fact, they said that like they felt like they didn't need any major changes, and so they want to keep their system. However, that wasn't the case with Unidas. When we talked to Jennifer, we talked to Jennifer, she said how they said before, she had to use physical copies for volunteers to sign up, and that created stress for her. And when she said that, we obviously thought that we need to switch our focus from volunteer retention to creating a volunteer management system. And so we decided to do that for her, and we decided to make a website application and add some more features as what Monin showed you before. And for our finishing touches, we basically just wrapped up our Headcount application and landing website. And then we showed Jennifer our final product from there, and she said that like this was like a major improvement from what she was using before. And now Vinny will talk about the impact and accomplishments that we've had.
All right, so I would like for you all to think yourselves as food bank managers just one last time, except this time you have a system through Headcount at your disposal. Now, we believe that the greatest impact of using this system, Headcount, is helping food bank managers save time, an effort that can be used for other concerns and issues rather than hassle-like administrative tasks. And we truly believe that Headcount should be described in just 3 words: simple, straightforward, and streamlined. That is our end goal, and that is what we believe is the potential for Headcount. Now, we began this journey by developing Headcount approximately a month ago. And throughout this course of time, we have had a tremendous amount of accomplishments as well as obstacles. But together as a group and as well as individually, some of our primary accomplishments include building a minimum viable product. Now, Headcount as it is right now is not a finished product whatsoever. However, the MVP that we have built outlines our primary research, secondary research, preliminary research, coding, debugging, etc. And furthermore, as computer science students, we are fascinated in the field of technological progress and technological innovation. And therefore, developing Headcount provided us with the perfect opportunity to advance our programming knowledge. And we can definitely use this knowledge in the future as we look to build more independent projects, as well as projects with other peers, but also for employment opportunities such as internships and fellowships. And lastly, the 9-to-4, 5-day-a-week work format of the Idea Summer program helped us to garner a tremendous amount of workplace experience. We learned the importance of how a workplace functions, the etiquette, the role of communication, collaboration with team members, etc. And overall, this helped us to ensure that our project was successful in the end, and we were always able to overcome our obstacles and barriers in the process.
Now, for the team highlights, it's just some of the team highlights that we've had throughout 5 weeks. So for myself, I learned the significance of patience in design thinking and gained tremendous experience creating technologically impactful solutions alongside our community of stakeholders.
I thought it was incredibly insightful to speak to the stakeholders and the people we were building for and with. It made me aware of their struggles and features to build that otherwise I would have not considered.
Volunteering frequently in high school, especially at Hydroponic Farm, I didn't actually realize how much work went like behind the desk, how much work was in the back, because we all thought about farm tasks, farm tasks, farm tasks. So talking to our stakeholders and reconnecting with them, it made me realize that there is actually so much going on, and it's so much that we just take for granted.
And I feel like one big takeaway we can take away from this program is I feel like meeting with the stakeholders was like honestly like one of the most important things for us and for this project, because I feel like not only did we get to talk to them and see what they did, we also got to learn like how they initially got to where they are right now and what their interests were. And overall, I think it was a really good experience, and they can all agree to that. And also, as for Kritika, although she's not here right now, she played a critical role in reaching out to volunteer to these to our stakeholders, and I feel like that without her, that none of this would have been possible. So we just want to thank her for that. With that being said, thank you.
All right, that was our last presentation, so thank you for that. One of the things that we talk about with IDEA is working with the students, and after all the hoopla today, we're going to talk more in detail in each of the teams to find out what is next for them. What I have up here is a list of several things that can be next. It isn't the definitive list, or is it fully comprehensive, but does reflect on what a lot of our students have done over the past 3 years of IDEA. After the IDEA summer program, our students have taken some of these projects and gone through innovation lab with them to further develop out projects and build out them more into a product. Other teams have gone through the interdisciplinary research teams through the School of Arts and Sciences, taking more of a research focus, wanting to dive more into the literature and looking at that to understand the problem space they're looking at. We also have students who have gone on, maybe not with these projects, but have gone on using what they've learned here to do the RICC co-op course through Career and Exploration Services. Then also those that are just looking to continue with IDEA and entrepreneurship, they can do the entrepreneurship minor over at RBS. And like I said, these are not comprehensive. There are a multitude of opportunities here at Rutgers that we point the students to so that they can best leverage their time. Because after this year, they're still just rising sophomores and have 3 more years that they can use to work towards their ideas. We also offer a lot of co-curricular opportunities through IDEA and our partnership with ICOR, UPitch New Jersey, which is a pitch competition. IDEA hosts the Design for America student-led design challenge every year. We also collaborate with Whole Pride, and then we run design labs, which are 3-hour workshops introducing students to the design process. And then we also talk to students about where they're going next year and the internships that they look towards. Again, the ones you see up here are ones that previous summer students have held. We have 3 students this year doing the Summer Service Initiative. Others that have gone on to through collaborations with Big Ten schools are doing research at the Holden Comprehensive Cancer Center at University of Iowa. We have students working in industry at Apple and Johnson & Johnson, and so the list goes on and on. IDEA cannot claim their accomplishments, but I just want to show where students have gone on from here. Then if I can do one little plug for us, here's our schedule so far of our topics for our 2023-2024 design labs. Our DFA team will be leading a 12-week design challenge on addressing mental needs. We'll be running a 3-hour workshop in introduction to designerly thinking. Friday night at the ER is also their design lab, which is a simulation game at looking what it's like to work at an ER on a Friday night. It's the purpose of it is to get you thinking about systems thinking and developing innovation that way. We'll be having a 3-hour design lab on design futures run by an industry partner, Rodney Fredrickson, who is a product designer. Then the 2 of them there, the leaping and learning and the internships, projects and experiences. For those of you who invited today, you have been forewarned. Abby and I will be reaching out to see if we can collaborate with those and having students do designing your life labs on thinking about the risks they like to take within the college experience and the projects that they'd like to do. And then we are open to other ideas too, if we want to talk about it and see how we might collaborate on the design lab. And that concludes our final presentations today.
If you'd like to make your way down to the basement level of the library to our hatchery, we will have food, desserts, and you can see further the products that.